baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. As always, thank you so much for checking out the channel. I do appreciate it. While you're here, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on all across Major League Baseball. And in case you're unaware, Major League Baseball had a major announcement this week. Among other things, the designated hitter will finally be integrating into the National League. And this is big news. This is something that a lot of fans have debated for years now as to whether or not they wanted this to happen. But it is now settled. The National League will have the designated hitter. And with that settled, we can now look at the outfield situation for the Braves with a little bit more light. Because before this, there's been the hard question of where exactly do we put Marcell Ozuna? And to be honest with you, I think the Braves signed Marcell Ozuna to a long-term deal, a 4-year deal, because they assumed, just like we did, that the DH was coming. So make no mistake, I know that there's other reasons that a lot of you guys don't exactly want Marcell Ozuna on the team, but the $48 million left on his contract with the Braves, I think he's going to return. I really do. I don't see a route that he doesn't. And to be honest with you, I've thought about the fact that him winning the MVP in the Dominican League, maybe his stock goes up and the Braves could trade him. I've thought about that, but the more I think about it, the more I've looked at it, the Braves have a ready-made designated hitter in Marcell Ozuna. So to be honest with you, I'm assuming at this point that he will be returning. We will, of course, talk about possible trades later in the show, but I think at this point we need to assume that Marcell Ozuna is returning. That is, of course, pending performance and pending trade offers. But if he is coming back, if the Braves allow him to return, which seems to be the case, then there is no better form than as a designated hitter. We know that Ozuna is not exactly the best fielder, so I really think that this will highlight his ability and make him more like the player of 2020 that we remember, you know, back when he used to DH primarily. So that leaves an outfield spot open, a starting outfield spot open. But what about the other two? I know that it may not exactly seem crowded this year, but there is still a lot to consider in the outfield for the Braves, even with Ozuna seemingly moving to designated hitter. First off, let's start with who we know is coming back. Obviously, Ronald Acuna Jr., staple of the outfield. But with his injury last year, Acuna more than likely will not be starting on opening day. And to be honest with you, I think it's going to be at least a month into the season because, look, I get it. He's looked great in every video that's dropped. It looks like he could play tomorrow. But if Soroka's rush comeback tells me anything, I don't think that the Braves are going to push Acuna in too early. I just don't see that happening. And they shouldn't. Let him come back on his own time. But he is coming back. Make no mistake about it. So at some point during the season, Ronald Acuna will take one of the outfield starting spots. But I just don't think it's going to be opening day. Secondly, Adam Duvall. Adam Duvall's contract is technically yet to be settled. However, he has entered the arbitration process. That happened before the lockout. So he will be back in 2022 once his salary is set by an arbiter. The important thing here is that he is under club control. So you can assume that Adam Duvall will be there on opening day and for the rest of the season. He will be taking one of those spots in the outfield. Guillermo Heredia. Guillermo re-signed as quick as he could. He's already signed to 2022 on a 1-year, $1 million contract. I think he's going to be much like he was last year. He'll fill the need where it is, and he could come off the bench, maybe have a spot start here and there, but he will be around for the 2022 season. Also, don't forget about your prospects, Christian Pache and Drew Waters. It's names that we are very familiar with here at On Deck. We've seen Christian Pache at the Major League level over the past 2 years. He hasn't quite reached the pinnacle of his career. He hasn't quite reached Major League level either, at least not up until this point. Maybe he proves that at some point this year. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see Christian Pache specifically fill in for Ronald Acuna while Acuna continues to heal at the beginning of the season. If I'm going to pick one of the two out of those, I'm more than likely going with Pache there. They add to this outfield and why it could be considered crowded. And this is where it really gets interesting, is what we don't know. You have an open spot in the outfield, right? Even with Acuna and Duvall, you have an open starting spot in the outfield. And you have that open spot, not to mention you have Ronald Acuna's spot that you're going to have to fill for at least a month, I assume, right? Because I don't see Acuna being back for opening day. So, in my opinion, you need at least one permanent fix, and you need at least one temporary fix for Ronald Acuna's absence. If you go the temporary fix route, you either need a minor leaguer, i.e. Christian Pache or Drew Waters, more than likely Pache, or Guillermo Heredia can fill that spot. So to me, again, that leaves you Christian Pache or Guillermo Heredia based on who's currently on the roster. Considering options out of those two, I think Guillermo Heredia fills in for Ronald Acuna. I really do. But also keep in mind, if you do that, that limits your bench. Currently on the bench, you have Guillermo Heredia, Orlando Arcia, Travis Demeritte, William Contreras, Manny Pena, Chadwick Tromp, and Pache and Waters. That's at least who's on the 40-man roster currently. Now, out of that list, only 3 were on the World Series roster. And only Heredia was on the World Series roster as an outfielder. So your bench would be very limited if you were to go with Heredia as a starter to start the year. And you don't sign some additional help. All credit due to him, I don't think Heredia is necessarily the ready-made answer. I think he could be, but I don't think he's the assumed answer here. That goes into the permanent fix idea. Assuming Ronald Acuna and Adam Duvall are your 2 guaranteed ticket starters for the year, at least when Acuna returns, who fills the 3rd spot? Ozuna is at DH, so this is where I think you see a new free agency signing happen, or you see a trade. If you go the free agency routes, I think you have 3 top candidates, and they're names that you're all very familiar with. Eddie Rosario, Joc Pederson, and Jorge Soler. Take your pick. We all know what they can do given the opportunity. I wouldn't be upset, as I'm sure you wouldn't be either, at any of those pickups. The NLCS MVP, the World Series MVP, and I think Joc could have easily won the NLDS MVP if it existed. Those 3 guys' impacts on last year's team cannot be overlooked. They can't be overstated. But I think it's highly unlikely that we get all 3 back, and I think it's highly improbable that we get 2, to be honest with you. I think we re-sign 1. I think that happens to fill that starter spot at any given location in the outfield. It doesn't matter. But if it's me, I'm picking either Rosario or Soler in left field. I think that makes the most sense here. I lean a little bit more towards Rosario. I just think he has more potential to be a consistent bat in the lineup, and I think he offers something different at the plate. For one, he's a lefty, which, if we lose Freddie, he's going to be one of the very few lefties that we have within the lineup, and compared to Acuna and Duvall and Ozuna, who are primarily power hitters, I like having a guy like Rosario who can come in and get a base hit when necessary. Plus, if we're prioritizing defense, I think Rosario is a much better defender in the outfield than Soler. Not to mention, there was no one who had a better postseason last year, or who did better down the stretch. Soler's homers were awesome in the World Series. They're memorable. They're going to be moments that we look back on for a long time, but I'm going to have to lean towards Rosario because he was consistent throughout that stretch too. With that said, I wouldn't be mad if we got Soler either. We need at least 1 free agency outfield signing or trade, and I think any one of these guys would fit the bill, but I think Rosario and Soler make the most sense. Now, there is one more thing to be considered. I mentioned earlier that the bench is a little bit weak. One more time, Guillermo Heredia, Orlando Arcia, Travis Demeritte, William Contreras, Manny Pena, Chadwick Tromp, Christian Pache, and Drew Waters are all the additional players on the 40-man roster currently. That might concern you because there's not a ton of name value in that list. There's not a lot of guys who have been proven, who have proven themselves at the major league level. Keep in mind, the need for a strong hitting bench goes away when you bring in a DH because, I mean, you lose the idea of a pinch hitter. You don't have to have 2 or 3 pinch hitters in a game. What you need a bench for at this point is to be able to give folks rest, be able to give an off day to Ronald Acuna and feel okay about it. But I still think Alex Anthopoulos is in the market for some purchases, maybe in the market for a trade. He's mentioned that the payroll has the ability to expand significantly this year. I think the payroll will expand, and I think it will be used to hopefully not only re-sign Freddie Freeman, but also land at least one of our postseason heroes in Eddie Rosario and Jorge Soler. It'll be interesting to see how this transpires. And with that said, I want to throw a scenario at you. You guys always want me to throw a trade idea out there, or throw a free agency signing idea out there. I'm going to throw one at you. What if the Braves are able to trade Marcell Ozuna? And I know I said that I wasn't looking at this, but I'm just throwing this out there. This is from my notes from a few weeks ago. What if this was able to happen? Because I want you to think about it. His contract is actually pretty reasonable. I mean, this is a guy who was an elite hitter in 2020 and had a very good career prior to that. He is the Dominican League MVP from this past year, and he's only making $16 million a year. The Braves have $48 million committed to him, but if they can trade him away and be released of that stress, because look, there's a lot of you guys that don't want Ozuna to return. I'm well aware of that. But it's not even necessarily have to do with that. We have brought in new faces. We have brought in Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler, Joc Pederson, guys that came in and arguably did just as good or even better of a job than Ozuna could have or would have done. And Ozuna has fallen from grace in a lot of your guys' eyes, and I get that. But from a business standpoint, Ozuna's deal is actually reasonable. That's why I'm not exactly mad about the Braves keeping him if they do. But $16 million for what was an elite bat in 2020 could catch the eyes of a lot of these National League teams that now have to go find a DH. The Braves have a ready-made DH in Marcell Ozuna. But if they want to forfeit that and trade for something, here's what I think they could do. They could trade Marcell Ozuna for prospects, because that's all you're going to get. No team that's competing now is going to send anything back worth any value that's a current player that can basically contribute to a team right now. But they will send prospects. The reason I say the Braves should trade for prospects, I know it's not what you want to hear, but the Braves farm system, which used to be in the top ranking farm systems, they were number 1 not that long ago. A lot of that talent has moved up or faded away. The Braves have fallen to number 17. That's all across MLB. That's middle of the road. That's not exactly what the Braves want for their future, right? So I think you could replenish your farm system and in turn replenish your future by trading away Marcell Ozuna and getting some higher ranked prospects. Now that's not what you want to hear, but here's the part that you'd like to hear. After you get rid of Marcell Ozuna, you open up $48 million that wasn't there. Maybe you pay some of it, but not all. And then you re-sign Eddie Rosario, put him in left field. So your outfield will consist of Eddie Rosario, Ronald Acuna, and Adam Duvall on any given day. Most common, it's going to be those 3. And then Jorge Soler, you go get him and you re-sign him and you make him your DH. Just going to leave that one out there. Just going to throw that one out there, let you guys run with it. You heard it here first if it happens, but it's kind of a throwaway one. I really think that the odds of that happening are very slim, but it's an interesting thing to think about. So again, just one more time, you trade away Marcell Ozuna, you get prospects, you replenish your farm system, and you let Soler be your DH and Eddie Rosario fill in the outfield, or you go another route and sign someone else. I just think it's an interesting idea. Let me know what you think about it down below. Let me know what you think about the whole outfield situation for the Braves, and of course, let me know what you think about the season going forward. With that, guys, I'll see you next time. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton. I always appreciate it. And of course, you can follow me on social media as well at BubblegumJesus on Twitter and Instagram. With that out of the way, guys, see you next time right here at On Deck.